If Avery Cole had looked up 2 seconds later, she would have missed the kid in the rain, thin, barefoot, and clutching two crying infants wrapped in crinkled garbage bags. Seattle was a sheet of water that Thursday. The sky pressed low over the 520 bridge, wipers thumping a steady metronome as Avery's black Range Rover inched toward Medina. Her driver, Gabe, glanced at her in the rear view. "You want me to take Lake Washington Boulevard? Traffic on 8th is a parking lot." Avery didn't answer. Her phone buzzed with an email. Board call moved to 5 p.m. Confirm. She sighed, dropped the phone on the leather seat, and looked out through the beaded glass. That's when she saw him, standing on the narrow median by a blinking red left-turn arrow, rain pounding his t-shirt flat against his ribs, two tiny faces peeking out from plastic like soaked petals. "Stop the car," Avery said. Gabe hesitated. "Ma'am, I think it's one of those... now." He braked hard and pulled to the curb. Before he could grab an umbrella, Avery had opened the door. Cold air and water punched her cheeks. Her heels sank into gritty runoff as she crossed the lane, palms up, careful, as though she were approaching a skittish foal. Up close, the kid couldn't have been more than 13. Freckles, mud up to his shins. The baby's cries were thin and desperate, the kind that slice straight through bone. The boy flinched when she spoke. "What's your name?" He swallowed. "Tyler." "Are they yours?" He held them tighter. "They're my sisters." "How old?" 7 months. Avery leaned closer, instinctively shielding the infants from the wind. One of the girls turned her face, rainwater ambering on her lashes, and Avery's breath caught. Hazel. Not the muddy green everyone claims. A true light brown ringed with gold, the exact rare shade she had memorized when she fell in love with Daniel Cole, her husband of 10 years. Her late husband. The second baby blinked up at her. Same eyes. No, it could be coincidence. A trick of stormlight, grief playing a cruel magic trick. "Please don't call CPS," Tyler blurted, panic cracking his voice. "We'll be fine. I just need to get them dry." Avery's jaw tightened. "We're not calling anyone. You're coming with us." Gabe jogged over, umbrella high. "Ms. Cole, help him. Gently." She waved traffic to a stop with a quick, imperious flick. Seattle drivers actually listened. Inside the SUV, Gabe blasted the heat. Avery slid off her cashmere scarf and a soft throw from the third row. Moncler, white as fresh paper, and tucked the babies in like they were museum pieces. Their cries dwindled to hiccups. Tyler sat ramrod straight at the far edge of the seat, water dripping off his hair onto the floor mat, eyes wide, ready to bolt. "What are their names?" Avery asked, keeping her voice low, like the housekeeper used to do with Daniel's nieces at Thanksgiving. "Claire and Sophie." "Claire," Avery repeated, tasting the name. Then Sophie. The syllables felt strange in her mouth, gentle, unarmored. They rolled through the iron gates of her place in Medina, hydrangeas sagging with rain along the circular drive, the lake a slate smear beyond the cedars. Staff moved quickly. Nora from housekeeping with towels, the night security guy cracking the door before scampering back at Avery's look. No one touched the babies. No one touched the boy. The foyer was all warm wood and lemon oil. Avery set the girls on a cream sofa and stared down at them. Up close, she could see the blue river of veins in their temples, the tiny fists working in that newborn rhythm of instinct and hope. She heard herself say, "Nora, a basin of warm water, and call Dr. Brooks." Nora vanished. Gabe hovered, still processing. You sure, Ms. Cole? Avery didn't look up. I'm sure. Tyler hovered by the threshold, toes curled on the rug as if he might dirty it by standing. Avery handed him a towel. Dry off. He obeyed quickly, as though he'd spent his life trying not to cause trouble. When Nora returned with the basin, Avery wrung out a cloth and dabbed the baby's cheeks and hair. Sophie made a soft, breathy sound. Claire blinked those impossible eyes again. Avery's heartbeat did a small, traitorous stutter. A white-haired man in a barber jacket and scrubs under a parka arrived 15 minutes later, shaking off rain. You do pick nights, Avery, said Dr. Martin Brooks, concierge to Seattle's discreetly wealthy and their crises. Vitals first, Avery said. He warmed his hands under the tap and did a quick exam on the living room rug. Stethoscope, pulse oximeter, thermometer sleeve torn with his teeth like a field medic. Cold and hungry, he murmured. Lungs are clear. Let's get formula in them, small amounts, slow, and skin to skin if you can stand it. Nora fetched bottles. Tyler hovered, hands knotted. I try to feed them, he said, words tumbling out. Sometimes I get bread from a diner. Sometimes a lady at the bus stop gives me a little milk, but... Avery lifted her eyes. Where have you been sleeping? Under the overpass by 84th, he said, chin lifting like he dared her to flinch. It's dry if you tuck in behind the concrete. She did flinch. Dr. Brooks didn't. We'll need to watch them 48 hours, he said. I can set up a warmer and a travel bassinet here. If you want them admitted... They're staying, Avery said. Tyler's shoulders eased one notch. He watched, transfixed, as Sophie latched onto the bottle. She hates the cold nipple, he whispered, almost proud. Claire doesn't care, she just eats. Of course they already had preferences. Of course this boy knew them. Avery looked at him. Really looked. The stubborn set of his mouth. The way he angled his body so he was between the girls and every door, as if the world might blow in and take them. Tyler, she said softly, how long have you been doing this alone? He stared at the floor. Since they were born. Where's your mom? He swallowed. She passed. When the babies came. And your father? His gaze flickered to the girls, then pierced her like a nail. Don't know. Hazel eyes. Lake-colored rain. A grave 3 years old. Questions Avery had sealed in a velvet box and shoved to the back of her chest creaked open. When Dr. Brooks packed up, he paused at the door. You okay? He asked, reading the thing she refused to say out loud. Avery's face was marble. Leave your kit. You'll be back in the morning. He nodded. I will. Past midnight, the house went quiet except for the low hum of the warmer and the soft fizz of the gas fireplace. Tyler had fallen asleep on the carpet, one hand on the side of the bassinet like an anchor. Avery stood at the window, rain streaks warping the lights of yachts bobbing on the lake. She picked up her phone, thumb hovering, then tapped a contact she hadn't used since the worst week of her life. Dr. Brooks, she whispered when he answered. Voice gravelly with sleep. In the morning, I need a favor. Avery, I need a DNA test. She looked back at Claire, at Sophie, at those eyes she knew by heart. And I need the county to release Daniel's sample from his autopsy. Silence on the line. And then, understood. Avery ended the call and exhaled slowly. Maybe she was chasing a ghost. Maybe grief had finally unmoored her. Or maybe on a stormy night in Seattle, the past had stepped into the road and dared her not to stop. By dawn, the storm had thinned to a fine mist. the kind Seattle wears like a sweater. The house felt different. Quieter, yes, but not empty. The low hum of a portable warmer, the soft squeak of tiny breaths, the faint plastic rattle of a hospital bassinet Dr. Brooks had set up in Avery's living room. It all remapped the space. Tyler was asleep on the rug with his hoodie bunched under his head, one hand resting on the bassinet like he was keeping a door closed with his body. Claire stirred, rooting. Sophie slept with her mouth open, a pearl of drool at the corner. Avery eased down on the sofa in leggings and a UW sweatshirt she hadn't worn since before. The blue lake beyond the windows was glassy, too still. Nora shuffled in with pancakes and strawberries. "He looks starved," she murmured, nodding at Tyler. "Let him sleep 10 more minutes," Avery said. "Then feed him until he complains." At 7, Dr. Brooks returned, hair still damp, Starbucks cups hooked in his fingers. "One latte, one hot chocolate. Guess which belongs to a 13-year-old. Tyler jerked awake at the smell. He sat up, eyes darting, then relaxed when he saw the girls. Avery pushed the hot chocolate across the coffee table. "Drink. Eat." He obeyed like it was a law. He cut the pancake into precise squares, stacking them into tiny towers before he ate them, as if rationing joy. Dr. Brooks took the infants' temps, listened to their chests. "Better already," he said. "We'll do small feeds every 2 hours. I brought the swab kits." Avery nodded. "And Daniel's sample?" "I called the medical examiner," he said quietly. "They'll pull what they have. I can get a courier to the lab by noon. Results as soon as the analyzer spits." Tyler's fork paused. "Are we in trouble?" he asked, voice small. "Not with me," Avery said. Dr. Brooks shot her a look. He had to say it. "There are mandatory reporting rules," he said gently. "If a child's at risk, I'm not letting anyone split them up," Tyler blurted, words tripping over each other. "Foster homes take babies first. I asked at a shelter once. They said they'd placement match, and that means—" He swallowed, breathing quick. "They'll take them. Please don't let them." Avery's jaw worked. "No one is taking them anywhere," she said, steady as granite. "Not today." Dr. Brooks nodded, as if they'd agreed on more than they said aloud. He swabbed the inside of each twin's cheek, sealed the vials, labeled them in neat block letters. "Claire Cole, Sophie Cole?" he asked, eyebrow lifted. Avery hesitated, then, "Claire, Sophie. Last name to be determined." He tucked the samples into a hard case. "I'll call when the courier checks in." After he left, Avery showed Tyler the guest bath. "Shower," she said, leaving a folded Seahawks t-shirt and joggers on the counter. "Use as much shampoo as you want. The world can spare it." When he came back, hair sticking up, cheeks scrubbed pink, he hovered at the threshold again. "I can fix stuff," he offered. "Bikes, toasters. I helped a guy at the encampment wire a camp light. I can work for food. We won't—" He swallowed. "We won't be a problem." "You're not a problem," Avery said. "You're guests." He looked at the hardwood like it might contradict her. "Guests don't stay." Avery turned away before he could read her face and walked down the hall she hadn't walked in months. Daniel's office door stuck for a second, then gave with a sigh. The room smelled like cedar and paper. His cufflinks still glinted in a shallow tray. A photo of the San Juans leaned against a stack of design mock-ups from the app he'd sold before the accident. All of it suspended, like a paused life. She opened a drawer, mechanical pencils lined like soldiers, a leathery moleskin with a broken elastic. Another drawer, a jumble of keys, a worn ranger's cap he wore ironically to Mariners games, a small wooden box the size of a paperback. She touched it and stopped. Not yet. Back in the living room, the twins lay kicking on a blanket Nora had warmed in the dryer. Tyler had made a game of tapping their socks to a rhythm only he knew. Claire's hazel eyes found Avery again and held, almost stubborn. Avery crouched, that sweatshirt sleeve of hers brushing the baby's fist. "Where did you sleep last night, before the storm?" she asked Tyler without looking up. He leaned on his heels. "Behind the QFC in Clyde Hill sometimes," he said. "The vents blow warm, but security chases us. Under 84th is safer. There's this guy, Ron. He watches our spot when I have to go get food. He doesn't take anything." "You trust Ron?" "I trust that he's too tired to lie," Tyler said, and there was something in the way he said it, old and simple, that got past Avery's defenses. Her phone buzzed. "Dr. Brooks." Courier picked up. "Me released the sample. Lab is ready." A second buzz. 48 hours, maybe less. Beneath it, an unknown number with a Medina area code began to ring and ring and ring. Avery hit silent and set the phone face down. She lifted Sophie, who was starting to fuss, and tucked the baby against her chest, all that warm, impossible weight settling into her. The house absorbed the sound, the lake a gray witness beyond the glass. "Miss Cole?" Gabe's voice carried from the foyer. "There's someone at the gate, says he's family. He won't leave." Avery looked from the bassinet to the front hall, pulse ticking in her throat. She handed Claire to Tyler, who took her without thinking, like he'd been doing it his whole life. "Ask for a name," Avery said. Gabe didn't have to. A voice boomed from the intercom, tinny and unmistakably entitled. "Avery, it's Michael Cole. Open the door." "Open the door, Avery." Michael's voice cracked through the intercom like a gavel. She glanced at Tyler, who clutched Claire a little tighter. "It's okay," she said, steady. "Gabe, buzz him in, and keep the gate camera rolling." The front door swung wide to a gust of damp air and a man who filled thresholds for sport. Michael Cole, charcoal suit, rain beating on a wool overcoat, that old Bainbridge football build gone executive, strode in as if the house still recognized him. His eyes landed on the bassinet, then on Tyler, then on the baby in Avery's arms. "What is this?" he asked, voice low. "It's called not driving past a storm," Avery said. "Michael, this is Tyler. These are Claire and Sophie." He took one step closer, scanning the twins the way men scan quarterly reports, for risk. "You brought strangers into the house? After everything? Avery, you need to think." "I am thinking." He flicked a look at Nora, who'd appeared in the hall with a towel like a shield. "Could we have privacy?" "Anything you say to me you can say in front of my team," Avery said. "Say it fast. The babies nap on a schedule now." Michael exhaled through his nose. "The board is spooked. Investors are jittery. Your assistant says you skipped this morning's prep. And then I hear, through security, that you picked up a street kid and 2 infants and drove them into Medina like it's a feel-good segment on local news." Tyler's shoulders went up around his ears. Avery slid him a look that said, "You're safe." "I also called Dr. Brooks. We're doing a DNA test," Avery said. Michael's jaw clicked. "On what grounds?" "On the grounds that those eyes," she said, angling Sophie toward him, "are Daniel's." For a beat, the only sound was the bassinet's soft, white noise. Michael forced a laugh that didn't land. "Hazel eyes happen, Avery. You're grieving. And you're deflecting. She tipped her chin. Look again. He did. He couldn't help it. The left twin blinked slow, the same flecked gold Daniel wore like a secret. Something wavered in Michael's face and then steeled. Even if, he started, catching himself. Even if those children are not your responsibility. CPS will... No. The word left her before he finished. Not today. Not while they're sick and starving. And not because you're worried about a stock dip. You think this is about money? I think you're the one calling from an undisclosed number instead of a brother's phone, she said. Which means you're running this through counsel. Michael's silence was answer enough. He turned to Tyler. Kid, do you have a last name? Tyler squared up, surprising himself. Cole, he said, like he'd tried the name on in his head and it fit. Michael blinked. Cute. Avery stepped between them. You will not interrogate him. He took a measured breath, smoothed his tie like a reset button. Fine. Here's what's going to happen. I'll schedule an emergency board call at 3. We'll park this situation with the proper authorities. You'll take a few weeks off to clear your head. I'll steady the ship. Absolutely not. Be reasonable. I am, she said. I'm also done letting other people decide who belongs in my house. He stared at her like she'd switched languages. You're inviting a war. Then bring your best lawyer, Avery said softly. And bring your best memory of Daniel. You're going to need both. Michael's gaze flicked once more to Sophie. Some calculation failed behind his eyes. He turned on his heel. 3 o'clock, he called over his shoulder. Answer your phone. The door closed. Nora let out a breath she'd been holding since the gate rang. Tyler swallowed hard. He's mad. He's loud, Avery said. There's a difference. Her phone buzzed across the table. Lab, samples received, running now. A second buzz, me sample confirmed viable. A third from a blocked number, emergency board session 3 p.m., attendance mandatory. Avery walked down the hall to Daniel's office and shut the door. The house exhaled on the other side. She pulled the small wooden box from the drawer, thumb tracing the notch she'd avoided earlier. Inside, a stack of receipts from a Ballard coffee shop, a worn ferry stub, and a Polaroid. Daniel, younger, bareheaded on a pier, a toddler boy in a thrift store hoodie on his hip, both squinting into winter sun. The toddler's eyes were flecked gold. Avery's phone lit again. Dr. Brooks this time. One more thing. Call me when you can. I think you should know what the ME tech said about Daniel's file. Avery called back before the text finished blinking. Dr. Brooks, it's Avery. I was hoping you'd ring, he said, lowering his voice. 2 things. First, the ME's office confirmed Daniel's retained blood is pristine. Second, the tech flagged a note in his file. What kind of note? A chain of custody addendum from 8 months before the crash. It references a private paternity workup requested by Daniel. The outside lab name is redacted, but the requisition listed a minor. TR, male. Avery's throat went dry. Initials? Yeah. We don't keep the underlying results. The request never routed through our system. But he clearly tried to answer a question. That's all I have until your samples finish. She stared at the Polaroid on the desk. Daniel squinting into winter sun, a toddler in a thrift store hoodie on his hip. How soon? I pushed it. I'll call the second the machine prints. She ended the call and stood very still, palms on the desk, listening to the house. The whir of the air purifier. Nora sat near the bassinet. The clink of Gabe restocking bottles like he'd done this all his life. Tyler whisper singing some mariner's chant he'd picked up off a YouTube short. In the kitchen, Nora had transformed the island into a miniature nursery. Costco boxes of diapers and wipes leaned like towers. A Target bag yielded footy pajamas with tiny rain clouds. Gabe rinsed baby bottles at the farmhouse sink, Seahawks mug steaming next to him. DoorDash dropped formula and a warmer, Nora said, handing Avery a burp cloth. And I made grilled cheese. He's pretending he's not hungry. I'm fine, Tyler lied, eyes glued to Claire's sleeping face. Avery slid a plate toward him. My house, my rules. Eat. He took a careful bite, then a bigger one, then forgot to pretend. Shower's free, Gabe said. We found a clean mariner's hoodie and sweatpants in the lost and never-claimed bin from the guest house. Tyler glanced at Avery. Is it okay? It's more than okay, she said. Wash up. We'll be right here. He hesitated, then nodded and disappeared down the hall with the hoodie bundled in his arms, moving like someone who wasn't used to having anywhere to set his stuff down. Avery checked her watch. 2:46, the board at 3. She hated zooming them from Daniel's office, but optics mattered. Bookshelves, framed patents, the Caldwell logo etched in glass behind her. She took a breath, opened the door, and found the room exactly as he'd left it, down to the half-empty jar of Pike Place roast on the credenza. At 2:59, the screen tiled with faces. Hedge fund haircuts, a couple of founders, PR, legal, Michael dead center like a host. Thank you for joining on short notice, Michael began. We're here because there's chatter about a situation at the Medina property. Avery folded her hands on the desk. There are 2 infants under my roof. They were cold, hungry, and in the rain. That's the situation. PR cleared her throat. We've already fielded 3 media inquiries. If this is connected to Daniel, speculation doesn't help, legal cut in. Our duty is to protect the brand. Our duty, Avery said evenly, is to ship product, serve customers, and not abandon babies in a storm. A few squares flickered with surprise. Michael's stayed flat. No one's abandoning anyone. We need you focused. We propose you take a leave through Q3 while I step in as interim chair. Optics stabilize and you handle personal matters. Pass, Avery said. Operations are strong, Q2's ahead of plan, and I am quite capable of both running a company and warming bottles. If you're worried about governance, put me on a performance schedule. But I'm not ceding my seat because you're uncomfortable. A founder unmuted. If there's a risk these children are, Avery held his gaze. If there's a risk, we'll manage it with facts, not gossip. Lab work is underway. Until then, this stays in this room. Michael leaned forward. And if the facts are what you think they are, then we tell the truth, she said, and we behave like human beings with resources. Silence. Then PR softly. If that happens, we should get ahead of it. Drafts, statements, internal FAQs, no hero narrative, just simple, decent language. Do that, Avery said. Also, I'm setting up a small emergency fund through the Foundation for Kinship Care in King County. If our brand means anything, it should mean stepping in where systems fail. Michael's jaw twitched. You're making policy on a crisis call. I'm making culture, Avery said. Yours can catch up. He stared at her for 3 slow beats, then pasted on a neutral smile. We'll reconvene Friday. Keep your phone on. The screen winked to black. Avery let her shoulders drop. The house noise returned, the dryer thumping, rain sharpening against the windows again, a distant baby squeak becoming a cry. In the hallway, Tyler reappeared, hair damp, sleeves too long, cheeks pink from hot water. He smelled faintly like hotel shampoo and hope. "I didn't know how hot you keep the shower," he said, apologetic for no good reason. "However you like it is how we keep it," Avery said, scooping Sophie before the cry could crest. "You look good in blue." He blushed. "This hoodie's crazy soft." "It's yours now," she said. His eyes flicked to the office door. "Were those your work people?" "Yeah." "Are they mad?" "Some are worried, some are nosy," she said, bouncing Sophie against her shoulder. "I'm not giving them a vote." Claire stirred. Tyler pivoted, already learning their rhythm. "I think she likes the left side hold better," he said, adjusting his arm to mimic the way Avery rocked. The doorbell chimed. Gabe checked the gate camera. "Courier." Avery's heart climbed. She signed for a flat, clinical envelope. White, heavy, the kind that made rooms go quiet. Pacific Genetics in the corner. Her name typed with crisp indifference. Nora hovered in the doorway. Tyler swallowed. Avery slid a finger under the seal. Then Sophie burbled, nuzzled, and let out that half-laugh babies make when they forget why they were upset. Avery smiled in spite of herself, tucked the envelope under her arm, and nodded toward the couch. "Feed first," she said. "Then truth." The envelope sat on the coffee table like a live wire, white, heavy, clinically calm, while the whole house breathed around it. "Warm's ready," Nora said, snapping a bottle onto the new warmer. Steam curled like a question mark. Gabe handed Tyler a burp cloth. The kid's sleeves swallowed his wrists. His hair was still damp from the shower, smelling faintly of hotel shampoo. Avery settled Sophie into the crook of her left arm and tested the bottle on her wrist, like she'd seen 1,000 other women do in grocery store aisles. Perfect. Sophie latched with a soft, greedy sigh. Claire stirred, and Tyler adjusted without being asked, swaying the way you do when your body learns a new rhythm by necessity. "Is this what it's supposed to feel like?" he asked, voice small, eyes fixed on Claire's face. "Like you're a human rocking chair?" "Pretty much," Avery said, smiling. "You're good at it." Tyler tried to hide it, but the praise landed. He straightened a fraction, focusing on Claire as if the rest of the world had stepped back. When both girls were finally milk-drunk, Nora switched them to tiny pacifiers and tucked them in the bassinet. The house exhaled. Rain ticked against the windows. Somewhere, a dryer thumped a zipper. Avery picked up the envelope. "Do you want me to?" Nora began. "No," Avery said. "We do this together." She slid a finger under the seal and unfolded the stapled pages. The first line hit like cold water. "Pacific Genetics, paternity panel, alleged father, Daniel Caldwell. Child, infant A, Claire. Probability of paternity, 99.9%. The second page, infant B, Sophie. Probability, 99.99%. Avery didn't realize she'd sat until the couch caught her. The room receded. The rain, the hum, the soft squeak of a pacifier. She read the lines again because her brain needed a second pass to believe her eyes. Tyler's voice was barely a breath. So, he really was their dad. Avery looked up. He wasn't angry. He wasn't relieved. He was braced, like a kid who'd learned to expect the wrong kind of knock. "It doesn't change who you've been to them," she said. "And it doesn't change what I promised you last night." "What did you promise?" His eyes flicked to the front door without meaning to. He noticed, flushed, and forced them back to her. "That no one is taking you out of here," Avery said. "We're going to do this right." The doorbell rang. Everyone jumped. Gabe checked the camera. It's a woman. Lanyard. State badge. He squinted. Department of Children, Youth and Families. Avery stood. Let her in. The caseworker introduced herself as Priya Patel, late 30s, rain jacket still dripping, a tote bag sagging with forms. Her voice was calm, practiced. Ms. Caldwell, we received a report, anonymous. It referenced 2 infants and a minor caregiver at this address. I'm not here to accuse you of anything. I have to lay eyes on the kids, ensure safety, and talk about next steps. Avery didn't flinch. Come in. They're sleeping. Priya washed her hands at the sink without being asked, then leaned over the bassinet with the kind of care that comes from checking 100 babies. Good color. Warm. What did they eat? Formula Unfamil Neuropro, Nora said, already handing over the can. 4 ounces each about 15 minutes ago. They were hypothermic last night. Our physician friend checked them and we've got a pediatric appointment Monday, Seattle Children's. Priya's pen moved. And you are? Avery, she said. They're family. She didn't trip over the word. And the minor? Tyler, he said too fast. I'm their brother. Priya's eyes softened. You did the right thing keeping them safe. He nodded, jaw tight. Priya did a quick scan, diapers stacked, wipes open, a clean sink, a bottle drying rack already filling with tiny gear. I've been in a lot of homes, she said. This is not the worst one. Highest praise. Nora deadpanned. Priya cracked a smile. Look, technically DCYF could request emergency placement pending a shelter hearing. Given what I'm seeing, I'm not going to push for removal. But we need legal footing for you, Ms. Caldwell. Temporary guardianship. You'll also need to get the girls on a pediatric schedule, WIC or private, and figure out schooling for Tyler. Avery nodded. I have counsel. We'll file today. Priya softened again. Good. I'll schedule a follow-up home visit within 72 hours. Call me if anyone shows up trying to move the kids without a court order. And Tyler? She waited until he met her eyes. You did something impossibly hard. Be proud of that. After she left, Avery called her attorney. Lena, it's me. We need emergency guardianship for 2 infants, plus a plan for a 15-year-old who hasn't been in school. Today. On it, Lena said. Send the birth info you have. I'll prep a petition and a temporary order request for ex parte this afternoon. And Avery, brace for headlines. Already there, Avery said. She hung up and turned to Tyler. What's the last school you attended? He stared at the floor. I bounced. We were in Yakima for a while, then SeaTac. Then we stopped. After your mom died, Avery finished for him. Okay, we'll talk with the district. There's a spot for you somewhere that isn't just a seat. It's a fit. He took that in the way he took everything, quietly, holding it like glass. Avery's phone buzzed. Brooks, she answered. Tell me. Machine's done, he said, voice low. Both infants, no ambiguity, but that's not why I'm calling. I chased that old chain of custody note. Took some favors, but I found the outside lab. They sent me the archived report. Avery's pulse climbed. And 8 months before the crash, Daniel ran a paternity panel on a minor. Initials TR, alleged father, Daniel Caldwell. He exhaled. Probability of paternity, 99.97%. The room tilted and settled. Brooks kept talking. I can email you the PDF, but Avery, the kid in your house, he's not just the girl's brother. She looked up. Tyler was in the hallway, pressing a sticker onto Claire's onesie like it was a medal. He looked lighter in that ridiculous mariner's hoodie. He looked like a boy who wanted fiercely to belong. Avery? Brooks said. I'm here, she whispered. Tyler glanced over, sensing atmosphere like animals do before a storm. Is it bad? Avery swallowed. It's big. His hand froze on the sticker. How big? She set the phone down, the lab results heavy as anchors on the table, and crossed the room toward him, every step changing what family would mean from this moment on. The truth didn't land like a grenade. It opened like a door you suddenly realize has always been there. Avery crossed the room, palms up. Tyler, Brooks found another report. Months before the crash, Daniel ran a paternity test on a boy with your initials. He blinked once. So he was your father, she said. Simple, steady. No apology for facts she hadn't created. Tyler's mouth parted, but no sound came. Claire hiccuped, as if reminding the room that small, ordinary things still had the right to exist. He stared at the bassinet, then at Avery. Did he know? I mean, he tested it, so he knew. Avery swallowed. Yes. And he didn't. Tyler's voice cracked. He bit it off, jaw working, eyes bright and hard. Okay. Hey. Avery kept her voice low. You don't have to make that word do the work here. He scrubbed a sleeve across his face. Does this mean I have to go live with his people? It means you have more blood here than they do, Avery said. And it means when I go to court this afternoon, I'm not just asking to stand in for a stranger. I'm asking as family. His chin trembled. I don't want to be a headline. You're not, she said. You're a kid. I'll handle the rest. Her phone buzzed. Lena. Ex parte at 2:30, King County Superior. Bring IDs, birth info, any medical notes. I'll file to add Tyler under kinship placement. Priya says she'll join to support. Shoes, Avery said, already moving. Diaper bag, bottles, extra onesies. Nora, can you print the lab PDFs? Gabe, pull the car around. By 2, downtown Seattle glistened from the morning rain. They rode the elevator up with 2 other families, everyone pretending not to listen to everyone else's life. The courthouse air smelled like hand sanitizer and old carpet. A bailiff pointed them to a small hearing room where a judge in black robes sat behind plexiglass. Cause number 2311, the clerk read, then glanced up. In right, temporary guardianship of Claire and Sophie Rowe. Petitioning party, Ms. Avery Caldwell. Avery stood. Yes, Your Honor. The judge, Honager Ellen Park, hair pinned tight, eyes kind but precise, took in the babies, the teen, the tote of formula as if it were evidence. Who's with you? Counsel Lena Cruz, Lena said, rising. Guardian ad litem from DCYF is present, Miss Priya Patel, and the minor sibling Tyler Rowe. Priya stepped forward. Your Honor, I conducted a home visit this morning. The infants are warm, fed, and safe. Ms. Caldwell has pediatric care scheduled and appropriate supplies. I recommend temporary guardianship to stabilize the situation. Judge Park nodded, flipping through the petition. I see attached lab results, both infants' paternity confirmed to the late Daniel Caldwell, and an additional report indicating the minor sibling is also biologically Mr. Caldwell's child. Her gaze lifted to Tyler. Tyler, do you want to say anything? He looked like a runner at the blocks. Then, I want to stay with them, and with her. I can go to school, I can help, I don't want them to be alone. Avery felt the room tilt toward him, the bailiff's shoulders easing, Lena's pen pausing. Judge Park leaned back. Sometimes a courthouse day is a bad day that tells a hard truth. Sometimes it's a good day that tells the same truth. She signed 2 orders. Temporary guardianship of the infants to Miss Caldwell, review in 14 days. As to Mr. Rowe, Given the kinship finding, I'm authorizing his temporary placement with Ms. Caldwell under DCYF supervision pending a fuller plan. No removal or transfer of the infants without further order. DCYF will coordinate school enrollment, WIC if applicable, and a pediatric appointment. Everyone breathe. This is the start, not the finish. Outside, the sky had turned that rare Seattle blue that makes strangers smile at one another. Avery secured the car seat straps like a pilot. Tyler stood awkwardly by the rear door, a boy-shaped question. "You did great," she said. "I didn't throw up," he said, somehow proud of that. A suited man stepped out from a column's shadow. Polished shoes, CFO haircut, grief sculpted into ambition. "Miss Caldwell," he said, offering a card without offering a smile. "Ethan Caldwell, Daniel's brother." Avery didn't take the card. "I know who you are. We should talk." He glanced at the twins, then at Tyler, his eye measuring and minimizing in the same look. "Before this gets messy." "It's already messy," Avery said. "You just didn't have to mop until now." He shifted, the faintest tick. "The board is concerned. You making unilateral moves with assets Daniel built." "I built half of that," she said, soft enough to be dangerous. He tried a different angle. "We're willing to assume responsibility for the children. Proper nannies. Schools." "The optics of—" "The optics?" Nora echoed, stepping forward before Gabe's hand on her arm reeled her back. Ethan set his jaw. "There will be legal challenges. It doesn't have to be hostile." A woman in a navy blazer approached, a leather folio in hand. "Miss Caldwell, you've been served." She slid a packet into Avery's palm and pivoted away with machine grace. Avery read the caption. "Caldwell Capital Holdings et al. v. Avery Caldwell. Motion to freeze discretionary accounts. Motion to compel production of all paternity records. Motion to enjoin any transfer of assets to minors pending determination of heirship. Hearing set Monday 9 a.m. Ethan's smile was thin. "Like I said, we should talk." Avery folded the papers once, clean. "We will," she said, "in front of a judge." Tyler's fingers found the edge of her coat. He didn't tug, just touched, checking for gravity. Avery opened the car door and looked back at Ethan. "Tell your board the days of pretending people are line items are over." She slid into the seat, shut the door, and let the outside world blur into the windshield's sun flare. The engine turned over. The twins sighed. Tyler stared at the hearing date as if it were a storm front on a radar map. "Monday's close," he said. Avery watched the light turn green. "Then we spend the weekend getting ready." By Saturday morning, the loft looked like a command center disguised as a nursery. Strollers leaned against the kitchen island. A whiteboard appeared where a gallery print had been. Columns labeled legal, medical, media, money. Next to medical, Nora wrote PEDS. Monday 1:15, Swedish First Hill, and a reminder to ask about vaccinations. Under money, Gabe listed monthly burn, formula, diapers, wipes, a double stroller that didn't steer like a shopping cart. "Welcome to Costco-level budgeting," he said, cracking a grin. "Field trip after nap." Avery set a mug of drip coffee on the counter and rolled her shoulders. "Legal first," she said. "Lena?" On speaker, Lena sounded like she'd traded sleep for statute books. "Judge on Monday is Huxley, smart. Doesn't love theatrics. I'll move to quash the fishing expedition on your accounts. Argue need-based carve-outs for infant care. Also, expect them to attack the lab chain of custody. I'm subpoenaing the medical examiner and the lab tech. Priya?" "I'll be there," Priya said. "And I filed a memo on best interest factors. Stability, sibling bond, continuity." It helps that you have pediatric appointments set and safe sleep setups. Avery looked over at the twins, tucked like commas in the bassinet. What can they hit me with? Optics, Lena said. They'll paint you as a grieving widow, making impulsive decisions. Maybe push a publicity stunt narrative. And they'll point to your role at the company. Conflict of interest, self-dealing, whatever phrase polishes their fear. I built half that house, Avery muttered. I don't need their permission to open the door. Tyler hovered by the whiteboard, hands in his hoodie pocket. What about me? He asked. Do I have to talk? Not Monday, Lena said. But I'll prep you anyway, just in case. Truth is your friend. Short answers. If you don't know, say you don't know. He nodded, jaw set. Okay. They worked until the babies roused. At noon, the team split, Gabe and Tyler to Costco with a list that looked like a small-town supply plan. Nora to Target for baby-proofing gear. Avery to the kitchen to assemble bottle stations like she was laying out a lab. During Claire's nap, Tyler practiced with a laptop Lena had dropped off. Try this, Avery said gently. If an attorney asks why you were out in the rain that day, what do you say? Because I ran out of formula, he said, eyes on the screen. And the shelter was full. I figured people at the stoplight might help. If they say you were using the babies to panhandle? He flinched, then lifted his chin. I was keeping them alive. Good. Avery's voice softened. That's exactly right. Costco was a baptism by fluorescent light. Gabe pushed a flatbed stacked with formula, wipes, and a pack of onesies the size of a TV. Tyler walked beside him in a mariner's cap Gabe had tossed into the cart, like camouflage for a new life. A woman stopped them near the sample table. Those girls on the news, are they yours? She asked Tyler, not unkindly. They're my sisters, he said. The woman's face changed. She reached for her purse, then seemed to think better of it, and instead said, You're a good brother. Like a benediction. Tyler tucked the words somewhere safe. Back at the loft, pizzas arrived on DoorDash. New York style for Gabe, vegan for Nora, plain cheese for Tyler, who ate like he wasn't sure the slice would still be there if he blinked. The twins kicked on a blanket, fat baby legs bicycling the air to a 90s playlist. For 10 minutes, it felt like any American Saturday afternoon. Cardboard boxes, sports on low, laundry tumbling, a family making a map as they walked. At 3, Avery's phone vibrated with a news alert. Business ledger, Caldwell Capital turmoil, secret heirs or corporate ploy. The accompanying photo was a long lens shot of her carrying a car seat into the courthouse. Of course, Nora said, turning the screen away from Tyler. They make empathy sound like embezzlement. Avery skimmed, jaw tight. Ethan's quote was surgical. We're committed to doing what's best for the legacy Daniel built. Emotional choices have consequences. She dropped the phone face down and exhaled through her nose, slow. Let them talk, Lena texted. We'll bring facts. Tyler was folding tiny laundry on the couch, lining up onesies like playing cards. Do I have to wear a tie Monday? You don't have to be anyone but yourself, Avery said. But we can try a tie. See if you can breathe. He made a face that was almost a smile. As dusk slid down the windows, the city settled into a wet, quiet glow. Avery bathed the twins in a plastic tub on the kitchen counter, 2 pink peaches slick with suds. Tyler stood beside her with a towel, serious as a nurse. Gentle, Avery coached. Support her head. I got her, he whispered to Sophie. You're good. They dressed the girls, dimmed the lights. And for a minute, just listen to the soft, baby snorts that fill a room with a kind of faith. The knock came at 8:12, 3 firm raps that didn't sound like a neighbor. Gabe looked up. Avery and Nora exchanged a glance. Through the peephole, a woman in a DCYF windbreaker and a uniformed officer waited in the hall. The woman lifted her badge toward the fisheye glass and spoke clearly, for the record and the door. "Ms. Caldwell, Priya Patel. I'm sorry to drop by unannounced. We received an anonymous report and I'm required to do a welfare check tonight. May we come in?" Avery cracked the door on the chain. The woman held up a laminate with the state seal. "Priya Patel, Department of Children, Youth and Families. This is Officer Ruiz with SPD. We received a report. I need to see the children and the residents." Avery's stomach dipped. Of course. She slid the chain free and opened wide. "And just to say, this isn't the same Priya on our legal team." "Common name," the social worker said, not unkindly. "May we?" Nora hovered by the island. Gabe stood from the couch. Tyler was frozen at the bassinet, one hand on Sophie's tiny sock. "It's okay," Avery told him. "We're going to answer questions." Priya moved efficiently, eyes scanning without judgment. "Who's the primary caregiver tonight?" "I am," Avery said. "I'm their late father's widow. We filed for temporary guardianship yesterday. Hearings Monday. Names and ages? Claire and Sophie, 7 months. This is their brother Tyler, 13. Priya crouched by the bassinet. "Hi, Claire. Hi, Sophie." She checked breathing, skin tone, the set of the straps on the sleep sacks. "Where do they sleep?" Avery pointed to 2 mini bassinets tucked against the wall. Bare mattresses, no blankets. "On their backs, separate surfaces. We read the safe sleep guidelines." "Good," Priya's pen scratched. "Formula?" "Similac sensitive," Gabe said, opening the pantry like a proud quartermaster. Shelves of cans. "We also have distilled water, bottles, sterilizer, and diapers?" Nora popped open a closet. Towers of Pampers, wipes, diaper pail liners, a changing pad anchored to a dresser. Priya nodded. "Smoke detectors? Carbon monoxide?" "Hardwired." Gabe pointed to the ceiling. "CO by the bedrooms." Officer Ruiz stood by the door, hands loose near his duty belt, scanning for threats that weren't there. Priya moved to the fridge. Pediatric appointment printouts, a grocery list, the whiteboard schedule. Under medical, she read aloud. "Peds, Monday 1:15. Immunization records pending. NICU follow-up?" She glanced up. "They were born at Swedish," Avery said. "We're tracking down records Monday morning." Priya looked at the babies again, then at Avery. The anonymous report alleged unlawful custody and unsafe conditions. Avery kept her voice even. "We did not abduct anyone. Tyler," she met his eye, "asked for help. We came inside out of the rain. Since then, we've done nothing but stabilize." Priya turned to the boy. "Tyler, can I talk to you alone for a second? Just out here by the hall?" She looked at Avery. "Standard. You can see him the whole time." Tyler glanced at Avery, who nodded. He followed Priya 2 steps into the doorway, Officer Ruiz remaining in sight. "Do you feel safe here?" Priya asked, gentle. "Anyone ever yell at you? Hit you? Keep you from eating or sleeping?" Tyler shook his head. "No, they got us beds. And food. A lot of food. Do you want to be here tonight?" "Yes," he said, voice firming. "Please don't split us up." Priya jotted something, then lowered her pen. "Thank you." She stepped back inside. "I'm going to take a look at the bathroom. Meds stored, hot water temp, that sort of thing." Avery led her down the hall. Tylenol up high. Cleaning supplies latched. A baby gate still in its box leaned against the wall with outlet covers and cabinet locks. "We're installing those in the morning," Avery said. "I can see you're trying." Priya checked the water heater cabinet with a thermometer strip, then looked Avery in the eye. "Grief can lead people to make rash choices. It can also bring out the best. My job is to call it like I see it." "What do you see?" "Two infants who are clean, warm, and fed. A teen whose affect is appropriate. A home with resources and a plan." Priya slid her card across the island. "I'll write my report tonight. My preliminary recommendation is no removal at this time, pending the hearing." Avery exhaled so slowly she surprised herself. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Priya said. "The court will still want to see you Monday. If anyone tries an ex parte emergency order before then, your attorney should call me." "We're represented," Nora said. "You'll hear from Lena Ortiz." Priya smiled at the name. "She's competent." She looked back at Tyler. "If you need me, you call. That number rings my cell." Officer Ruiz tipped 2 fingers off his cap. "Y'all have a good night." When the door clicked shut, silence swelled and broke all at once. Gabe whooped, then muffled it with both hands. Nora leaned against the island, eyes wet. Avery didn't move. She watched Tyler rub tiny circles on Sophie's back, her breath feathering his hoodie. Her phone buzzed on the counter. "Lena, heads up. Caldwell's counsel just filed for an emergency hearing, Sunday, 9 a.m. They want temporary removal and a freeze on your discretionary spending. We'll fight it. Be ready at 8. Avery read it twice. The moment of relief dissolved like sugar in a rainstorm. "What is it?" Nora asked. Avery turned the screen so they could all see. Tyler read the words, then looked up, face pale but steady. "What do we do?" he asked. Avery squared her shoulders, the old boardroom steel sliding back under the new softness. "We pack the diaper bag. We print our schedules. We sleep if we can." She scooped Claire, settled her against her chest. "And tomorrow morning," she said, voice low and certain, "we show up together." Sunday broke gray and early. Avery moved through the condo on autopilot. Print the schedules, refill the diaper bag, tuck a spare onesie beside the wipes. Nora brewed coffee like it was medicine. Gabe strapped the car seats back into the SUV with the grim focus of a pit crew. Tyler stood by the door in a thrift store button-down Nora had pressed, holding Sophie while Claire snuffled against Avery's shoulder. His jaw was set, but his eyes kept darting to the clock. "At 9, we tell the judge the truth," Avery said, more to herself than anyone. "We show we're stable. We ask to keep the kids together." Tyler nodded. "And if they say no?" "Then we appeal," Lena texted back instantly when Avery sent the same question. "But let's go win." King County Family Court on a Sunday had the hushed feel of a church between services. The few people in the hallway spoke in whispers that carried. Lena Ortiz met them at the security line, hair up, flats on, a canvas bag full of binders balanced on her hip. "I filed Priya Patel's preliminary note," she said under her breath. "It helps. They'll push back hard." They arrived in a navy suit and a cologne cloud. Harlan Paxton, counsel for the Caldwell Family Trust, glanced at the babies, then at Avery as if clocking assets. A pale woman in pearls lingered behind him. "This is Stephanie Caldwell," Paxton announced, "the children's aunt. We're seeking placement with her." Avery kept her face neutral. She had never seen Stephanie at a single hospital vigil. The clerk called the case. Inside the small courtroom, Judge Kimberly Hart peered over readers and said, "Emergency calendar is for true emergencies. Keep it tight. Paxton rose. Your Honor, the respondent, Ms. Monroe, has, in the throes of grief, taken custody of 2 infants to whom she has no legal relationship and a teenager with no legal guardian. She has no training. She controls enormous funds. We ask for temporary removal to department custody or placement with their paternal aunt, and a freeze on Ms. Monroe's discretionary spending as to trust assets. Lena stood before he'd fully sat. Your Honor, Ms. Monroe did what any decent Seattleite would do in a storm. She brought 3 kids in from the rain. Since then, she's provided safe sleep, food, medical appointments, and stability. The department's own social worker saw the home last night. Preliminary recommendation: no removal. We do not oppose a guardian ad litem, and on Monday we'll seek temporary guardianship. Today, the only emergency is the risk of tearing siblings apart. Judge Hart looked over her glasses. Department present. On the screen, Priya's face appeared, hair still damp from a morning run. Yes, Your Honor. I conducted a home visit at 8 p.m. The infants were warm, fed, and safely sleeping. Supplies were adequate. The teen reports feeling safe. I recommended the children remain in place pending the full hearing. Paxton pivoted. Ms. Patel, were you aware these children are heirs to a substantial estate? Doesn't that incentivize opportunism? My job isn't the estate, Priya said evenly. It's safety. The home was safe. Judge Hart turned to the gallery. The teenager, Tyler, do you want to say anything? You don't have to. Tyler stood, hands twisting, then flattened them on the pew. They're my sisters. I take care of them. Ms. Avery helps. Please don't split us up. His voice didn't crack. Avery felt it like a bell. Hart set her pen down. All right. She took a beat. Removal is the most intrusive action this court can take. I don't see grounds. The department recommends no removal. I'm ordering the children remain with Ms. Monroe pending Monday's hearing. The department will conduct one unannounced visit before then. I'm appointing a guardian ad litem. As to the trust funds, that's probate or superior court. Not my sandbox. Counsel can take it up there. Paxton bristled. Your Honor. Denied, Hart said, already signing. See you all tomorrow at 9. Outside, the hallway air felt lighter, the way it does right after thunder. Tyler let out a breath he'd clearly been holding for days. Nora squeezed his shoulder. Gabe bumped his fist, then winced, remembering the babies asleep. Paxton stepped in their path. This isn't over, he said softly. Stephanie's eyes were wet. Whether from anger or something else, Avery couldn't tell. It is for today, Lena answered, her smile all teeth. We'll see you in the morning. They made it to the curb before Avery's phone buzzed. A push alert lit the screen. Local Live? Seattle IRS hides late tech founder's twins. Court drama erupts, accompanied by a photo snapped through their rain-sleek lobby glass. The condo's address was blurred, but only just. Gabe swore under his breath. Across the street, a sedan idled a beat too long, a camera lens glinting between the wipers. Avery lifted Claire higher against her chest and met Tyler's eyes. We go home, she said, calm returning like tide. We close the blinds, we keep the routine, and we get ready for round 2. He nodded, jaw set again. The SUV doors opened, the rain thickened, and somewhere behind the clouds, Monday was already on its way. By noon, the sidewalk outside Avery's building looked like a tailgate for gossip. 2 vans idled with their station's logos splashed across the sides. a couple of freelancers in beanies hunched under umbrellas, and somebody had the nerve to fly a tiny drone up to the fourth-floor windows until building security waved a broom like an umpire. The lobby concierge, Marisol, called every 10 minutes with a new update and a softer, "You good up there, Ms. Monroe?" "We're good," Avery said, even when her hands shook pouring formula. They went into bunker mode. Gabe taped craft paper over the big picture windows and taught Tyler to turn white noise machines into a DIY sound wall. Nora taped a handwritten sign to the door. No comment. Sleeping babies. Please be kind. She also stocked the counter with bagels and 2 giant thermoses, coffee black and coffee that tasted like a milkshake. Lena FaceTimed from her home office, framed by stacks of color-coded binders. "Tomorrow we keep it simple," she said. "Routine, safety, stability, photos of the crib setup, feeding logs, the pediatrician's note Priya got yesterday. Tyler, if you're up for it, speak from the heart. You did great today." Tyler nodded, chewing his lip. "What if I freeze?" "Then you breathe, and you say the one thing no one can argue with," Lena replied. "You love your sisters and you know what they need." A text popped up on Avery's screen from an unknown number. "We can end this now. Place kids with Stephanie, and the trust will fund a foundation in your name. Spare yourself the circus. HP." Nora read it over her shoulder and muttered, "Harlan's idea of philanthropy is a hush fund." Avery typed 2 words, "No thanks," and deleted them. Instead, she screenshotted the message and forwarded it to Lena. "He's trying to buy me off. Perfect. Keep it." "Judges love receipts," Lena shot back. At 2, a soft knock came from the back hall. Ms. Chang, retired ER nurse, Seahawks hoodie, rain boots, stood there with a casserole that probably could have fed a rowing team. "Heard the news vans," she said, eyes taking in the papered windows. "Ignore them. Eat this. Also, my book club wrote character references. We know good people when we live next to them." Tyler carried the pan like it was treasure. "Thanks, Ms. Chang." "Tomorrow's going to be loud," she said gently to him. "Loud isn't the same as scary." Late afternoon brought the unannounced visit Priya had warned about. She arrived with another woman, mid-30s, sharp bob, tote bag full of forms. "This is the guardian ad litem appointed early," Priya said. "Maya Jensen." Maya nodded, legal calm. "I represent the children's best interests. Today I observe. No cross-exam," she added with a faint smile. Of course, that was exactly when both babies chose chaos. Sophie arched and shrieked. Claire hiccuped herself into a full-on siren. Tyler went white. "You got this," Avery murmured. Tyler took Claire to the dim nursery, clicked the white noise on, rocked side to side. "It's okay, Bug," he told her, voice low, steady. "You're safe. I'm right here." Claire's cry hiccuped, then softened into snuffles. Avery mixed a bottle one-handed and handed it to Tyler on the return. He checked the temperature like he was born to it, then offered it to Claire, index finger curling around her tiny fist. Maya watched without writing a word. Back in the living room, Gabe talked through cabinet locks and the fact that the balcony door now lived with a dowel in its track. Nora pulled out the diaper bin system she'd hacked with labeled bins like a color-obsessed preschool teacher. Priya opened the fridge. Formula, breast milk, donor milk with labels, nice veggies. Okay. "Sleep stretches?" Maya asked. 2 hours at a time. If the football gods are kind," Gabe said, nodding at the Seahawks blanket on the couch. Maya crouched to Tyler's eye level when he returned. "What happens when you're tired, bud?" "I still feed them," he said, surprised by the question. Avery and Nora take turns. Gabe, too. Who do you call if you need help and Avery's at work? Ms. Chang next door, he said then. And Ms. Priya, she gave me her card. Maya glanced at Priya, who nodded. He did. The tour ended at the twins' crib. Both girls slept, cheeks like little suns. Maya capped her pen. I'll file tonight, thank you all. At the door, she paused. Ms. Monroe, you understand this is a marathon, not a sprint. I ran a marathon once, Avery said. It rained the whole time. Maya's mouth tugged. Welcome to Seattle Family Court. They were almost breathing again when the buzzer sounded. Marisol's voice crackled through. Ms. Monroe, a courier just dropped a certified envelope for you from Caldwell and Stone attorneys. That's the firm that handled Robert's estate, Nora said quietly. Avery signed for it in the hall, the camera blinking above the mailroom. Inside, a single-page letter on thick paper and a small silver key taped to the bottom. The letter was short. Ms. Monroe, per Mr. Robert Caldwell's instruction, this letter and key were to be delivered to you upon any legal challenge affecting his minor children. The key opens a safety deposit box at Rainier Pacific Bank, Pioneer Square branch. Contents include documents relevant to the children's care and Robert's intent. Samuel Vance Escoworn. Avery stared at the key until it bit her palm. Is that what I think it is? Gabe asked. Insurance, Nora said, voice low. From the grave. Lena called as if summoned. You get a delivery? How did you? Paxton's clerk is sloppy. Don't go tonight. Bank's closed. We'll hit it at 8 a.m. and be at court by 9. Lena paused. This could be a codicil or a letter. Either way, it's leverage. Tyler hovered near the kitchen island. Does it help keep us together? Avery slipped the key into her front pocket like it was a heartbeat. That's the plan. They tried for an early night. Didn't get one. The twins tag-teamed wake-ups like seasoned professionals. At 2, Tyler went to the nursery before Avery could swing her legs out of bed. At 3:30, Nora swapped in, humming a gospel song her grandma used to sing. At 5, the city started to glow, wet streets reflecting every neon sign like a second sky. At 7:42 a.m., they piled into the SUV in sensible layers and rain shells. Gabe took the wheel. Avery kept a hand on her pocket. Nora had a manila folder of everything, logs, photos, reference letters, including Ms. Chang's book club manifesto. Tyler wore his best thrift store shirt and the expression of someone who'd decided to be brave on purpose. Outside Rainier Pacific Bank, a news van idled, but the cameras hadn't set up yet. In and out, Lena texted. I'll meet you at the courthouse. The branch had that quiet, carpeted hush of money and clocks. The vault manager checked IDs, frowned at the letter, then brought out a slim metal box. Avery turned the key. Inside lay a sealed envelope labeled in Robert Caldwell's handwriting. Read this in court. Gabe exhaled. Well, damn. They didn't open it. Not there. Not yet. At 8:41, they were back on I-5, the courthouse spire peeking through mist. At 8:59, they took their seats. Paxton strode in with a new, smug smile and a blue folder he hadn't carried yesterday. Judge Hart entered. Morning, folks. Let's pick up where we left off. Lena rose, calm as a lake. Avery slipped the sealed letter onto the table between them. Across the aisle, Paxton stood and said, Your Honor, the trust would like to call its first witness. The doors in the back swung open, and every head in the room turned. The back doors swung wide, and a breeze of perfume and phone flashes rolled in with Stephanie Vale. White suit, dewy makeup, the kind of smile that asked a room to like her and dared it not to. Two people from her PR team slid into the second row like they'd rehearsed it. Paxton didn't even hide his satisfaction. "Your Honor, the trust calls Ms. Stephanie Vale." The bailiff swore her in. Stephanie placed a manicured hand on the Bible, then crossed her legs at the witness stand with the grace of someone who knew where every camera was. "Ms. Vale," Paxton began, all velvet, "how did you know the late Mr. Caldwell?" She softened her voice. "We were together on and off for about a year. Robert was complicated but kind. He talked about wanting peace for his kids. He told me he worried his sister didn't understand what they needed." Avery felt her jaw tighten. Lena's pen didn't move. "And did Mr. Caldwell ever say where he wanted the girls to live?" Paxton asked. Stephanie lifted her chin a millimeter. "He said he wanted them somewhere stable. He knew I had a platform, a community of moms who trust me. I renovated my spare room into a nursery after he passed. I've been preparing." Nora exhaled a muttered, "preparing for content," into her legal pad. Paxton handed over a glossy photo, a tasteful gray nursery, a neon sign that read, "Dream big, little one." It hit the evidence table like a prop. "No further questions," he said, satisfied. Lena rose, unhurried. "Ms. Vale, you mentioned a platform. That's Steph Vale, correct?" "Yes." 3.1 million followers? Brand deals with formula companies, strollers, diaper services? Stephanie's smile didn't flicker. "I share products I believe in." Lena slid a sheet to the clerk. Exhibit 12. A pitch deck your publicist emailed a stroller brand last week. The subject line reads, "Stepmom Era, Exclusive Integration Opportunities." "Is that your email?" Stephanie glanced, blinked once. "That's aspirational positioning. We were brainstorming ways to support the girls. By monetizing them." Lena picked up another page. "And this is a DM to Mr. Paxton, 2 days after Robert's memorial. If we position me as a stabilizing presence, this rehabilitates my image and solves your trust optics." "Your words?" Paxton objected. "Foundation. Your Honor." "Overruled," Judge Hart said, skimming the paper. "Answer the question." Stephanie's polish thinned. "I was grieving. People say messy things when they're grieving." "Did you ever meet the twins?" Lena asked. "I held them at the memorial." "Do you know their middle names?" Silence. Stephanie's eyes darted. "Claire and Sophie." "Middle names," Lena repeated. Stephanie glossed it with a smile. "I'll learn them. No further questions." Stephanie stepped down, PR smile back in place, but her cheeks were a shade tighter. Judge Hart turned a page on her bench. "Guardian ad litem?" Maya Jensen stood. "No theatrics." "I visited Ms. Monroe's home yesterday. I observed safe sleep, appropriate feeding, and a calm response to distress. The older brother is bonded to the infants and vice versa. Disrupting that would be detrimental. My preliminary recommendation is that the children remain with Ms. Monroe while the court finalizes guardianship." Paxton's jaw flexed. "We'd like to call Mr. Paxton as a rebuttal witness," his co-counsel said quickly, and Paxton moved to the stand to denounce improvised celebrity pressers and reckless exposure. Lena let him run, then held up her phone. Exhibit 18. A text from you to my client last night. Place kids with Stephanie and the trust will fund a foundation in your name. You accuse Ms. Monroe of courting publicity while offering a quid pro quo on custody. Which is it, Mr. Paxton? What's in the best interests of these children? Cash and optics, or continuity of care? Paxton went red in the ears. I was trying to minimize public damage. To whom? The babies or your donors? Counsel, Judge Hart warned. but her eyes didn't leave Paxton's. Lena didn't push. She let the echo settle and sat. Avery felt the key in her pocket like a pulse. Lena leaned over, voice barely air. Now? Avery slid the silver key out. Nora placed the Rainier Pacific envelope beside it. Lena stood. Your Honor, we received a delivery this morning from the Caldwell estate attorney. It includes a sealed writing by Mr. Caldwell labeled, "Read this in court," and, we believe, an electronic recording. We move to admit both as declarations of testamentary intent and state of mind. Paxton sputtered. We haven't vetted, and you can cross after, Judge Hart said. Clerk? The envelope made its small, ceremonial journey to the bench. Judge Hart held it up so everyone saw the handwriting. Read this in court. She broke the seal, scanned the first page, then looked over her glasses at the parties. Ms. Monroe, Ms. Patel approach. At the sidebar, Judge Hart lowered her voice. I'm going to allow it. We're all adults. We can handle a dead man's words. But if this turns into theatrics, I'll shut it down. Understood? Yes, Your Honor, Lena said. The judge nodded to the bailiff, who wheeled out a cart with a small monitor and a battered courthouse laptop, like this wasn't the first time someone had brought a ghost into the room. The clerk slid in a tiny USB labeled in the same steady hand, for Avery and the court. Avery's mouth went dry. Beside her, Tyler took her fingers and squeezed, once for courage, twice for stay. Judge Hart's gavel clicked gently. What we're about to hear is not a will. It's one man's explanation, but intent matters. Proceed. The screen woke with a blue glow, a progress bar, a flicker. Then Robert filled the frame, shot on a phone, on his porch in Ballard, afternoon sun catching the cedar shingles and lighting up the hazel in his eyes. He looked a little tired, a little sad, a little like the man Avery had promised to always pick up from the airport. If you're seeing this, he began, voice low and plain, I messed up more than I could fix in one lifetime. Avery's hand tightened around Tyler's. Robert looked straight into the lens. Avery, if this got to you, I'm sorry. I'm going to ask you for something anyway. If you're seeing this, I messed up more than I could fix in one lifetime. Robert's face filled the little courthouse monitor, beard a bit long, mariner's cap backward, porch light cutting a halo over his shoulder. Avery, I lied, and I left you to carry the fallout. That's on me. He looked down, then back up, steady. To the court. I built a trust to protect my kids. Somewhere along the way, it started protecting my ego and my image instead. That's not what I want. The silver key you're holding opens box 417 at Rainier Pacific. Inside is a notarized designation naming Avery Monroe as guardian for Claire and Sophie, with a backup if she can't serve. There's also a restatement of my intent for the trust. Fund the caregiver. Don't try to be the caregiver. He exhaled, a laugh without humor. Avery, I know you don't need my permission to be brave, but I'm asking you anyway. Keep them together. Keep them laughing. Tyler, kid, if you're there. The camera shook a little as Robert leaned closer. You did more for your sisters than I did with all my money. I'm sorry I ever made you do any of it alone. He straightened. To anyone angling for headlines or percentages, let it go. If my name ever meant anything good, it's because Avery saw something worth saving in me. She sees people, not optics. That's who I trust with my girls. He hesitated, eyes wet. Av, I can't fix what I broke, but I can own it. Please build the life I should have built with you, and tell the kids I love them. Roll this in court if you have to. The video clicked black. For a long beat, even the air vents sounded loud. Judge Hart nodded to the clerk. The small evidence bag with the key and a second sealed envelope moved to the bench. She slid it, scanned, then held up 2 documents. These bear Mr. Caldwell's signature and a notary seal. One is a designation of standby guardian, the other a letter of instruction to the trustee. Paxton tried to recover composure. Your Honor, we still question timing and you may question it on cross, Judge Hart said. But the law favors continuity of care and the decedent's intent. Lena stood. No cross on the dead, Your Honor, she said softly. But we do ask the court to take judicial notice of Box 417 as soon as the bank opens. Noted, Judge Hart said. Her gaze swept the room. I don't need a bank to see what's in front of me. She stacked her notes, then spoke in that calm, unarguable tone good judges acquire the hard way. Best interests. The twins are thriving in Ms. Monroe's home. Bond, strong with their sibling and with Ms. Monroe. Risk, removal would be harmful. Intent, the father named Ms. Monroe. The trust's role is financial support, not parenting. She turned to Paxton. Your petition to place the children with Ms. Vale is denied. Then to Avery. Temporary guardianship is converted to permanent. Ms. Monroe, you are appointed guardian of Claire and Sophie Caldwell. Mr. Caldwell's restated trust intent will be respected. The trustee is ordered to release funds for the children's care per standard need, without interference in daily decisions. Stephanie's PR smile collapsed by degrees. Paxton looked like he'd bitten a lemon. The gallery, half reporters, half foster moms and church grandmas who'd snuck in on their lunch break, breathed out as one. Tyler squeezed Avery's hand so hard it almost hurt. We did it? He whispered. She swallowed. We did it. Outside, microphones bloomed like dandelions. Avery kept it short. This isn't a win against anyone, she said into the forest of phones. It's a win for keeping siblings together. When someone asked if she'd monetize the girls, Lena laughed so the cameras caught it. The only brand here is bedtime. 2 weeks later, on a Saturday that smelled like rain and cedar, Avery and Tyler stood in a quiet corner of a Rainier Pacific branch, while a banker turned the key. Box 417 slid open with a soft metal sigh. Inside, exactly what Robert said. Executed guardianship papers, a trust letter, and a Polaroid of 3 kids' hands stacked on a porch rail. Marker scribbled names across the bottom. Tyler plus, Claire plus, Sophie. Tyler traced the edges with a finger. He planned this, he murmured, somewhere between relief and ache. Avery nodded. He did one good thing right at the end. They walked out into a misting Seattle afternoon. At home, the twins barreled down the hallway in mismatched socks to meet them, yelling, "Mama!" like the word had always belonged to Avery. Dinner was grilled cheese and tomato soup at the kitchen island, twins dipping 2 big triangles and giggling when the cheese stretched like magic. After, Tyler tuned the thrift store guitar they'd sanded together, and the 4 of them sang badly on purpose. Later, when the house was quiet, Avery stood on the back steps, mug warm in her hands, the silver key now on a chain at her throat. Through the window, she could see Tyler asleep on the couch, a twin tucked against each shoulder like punctuation. She thought of the first night, the rain, the traffic, the way her foot found the brake instead of the gas. She whispered into the dark, not to Robert, not to the judge, but to the small, stubborn voice that had made her open the car door. We didn't drive past. From upstairs, a baby half woke and fussed. Avery went in, barefoot, and the house sighed around her like something alive. Tomorrow there would be forms and bottles and board meetings and muddy sneakers on clean rugs. Tomorrow there would be more questions than answers. But tonight, there was this. A boy who'd done the impossible, two girls who believed the world was safe, and a woman who had finally chosen the kind of wealth you can actually hold. And that, she decided, was the only ending that ever mattered, and the best beginning.